What's up, YouTube? This Starwolf. Look, I have a couple of questions before I get off into this video. And a few of the questions is, do you feel that we should have remained segregated? Or do you feel that integration was a benefit for the black people? That's one of my questions that I want to know. How do you feel about integration and segregation? Because in my opinion, I feel that on certain levels we should have stayed segregated. And I'll get to that. Now, we dealing with Chicago. 18 homicides. 18 homicides in one day. One of the deadliest days in 60 years in Chicago. And amongst the people that was killed was two 18-year-old female students. Now, my other question is this. How did we get to this point? How did we get to the point to where the gangs are somewhat controlling the neighborhoods? How did we get to the point to where all of this killing and all of this senseless violence is going on? That's another question. That was my second question. Okay. Again, in one of my opinions, I feel that we were divided purposely. One of the ways of division came in through the Section 8 program. Okay? We all know what Section 8 housing is. You know, the housing authority, public housing, whatever it is in your city, is still Section 8. And usually, you know, Section 8 is either in some type of low income apartment or house, or predominantly public housing, which is projects. Now, a lot of y'all don't really realize and understand how that came about. See, projects were started back in the 1920s, 1930s, somewhere around there. The word project means just that. It was a project. They were doing an experiment. They wanted to put people in a confined space and see how they would act. It was a social experiment. This is social engineering at its finest. They did it all around the world. They did it in Europe. They did it in Hong Kong. They did it in Australia. They did it all over. In fact, half of the Hong Kong population lives in public housing, which the Hong Kong population is 7.8 million people. So half of that is living in public housing. And they wanted to see how people live. They wanted to study people. That's why it was called a project. And they built them. They constructed them. They designed them certain ways so that families would reside in these projects, which they call projects, and they would see if they would turn out to be dysfunctional families, see if they would have mental issues. And so what they did when they integrated, they kept this project going. And in certain cities where black people weren't residing because white people were in those projects, they occupied those projects, they put black people off in the projects on purposely. They did this by not allowing us to work certain jobs, by keeping us in poverty, keeping us enslaved, by keeping us hooked on drugs, pumping that into our communities. So now we don't have any type of financial stability. So we have to depend on the government. So when they put this program into place, Section 8, they knew what they was doing. You see, this is how the problem started before the gang problem and all the killings. You have to look at the underlying problems. You have to look at it. How did it get here? They didn't just start killing overnight. It just didn't happen. And even though Chicago is known for having multiple killings in a day or in a week or in a month, this is going on across America. So this is one of the methods. This is one of the reasons of how this came about. Enslaving people, putting them off in certain areas, knowing that if they living in poverty, they don't have this or they don't have that, meaning they're not financially able to provide for one another, for the family unit. Then eventually violence and crime will come into play. You'll start stealing and robbing and killing. See, before there was integration, we were segregated. We did okay. Black people did okay as a family unit because the daddy was inside the home. The daddy was inside the home before we was before we start integrating. You see what I'm saying? So Section 8 was another program that they threw into place to cause that division. Because you don't have to depend on the daddy anymore. You depend on the government, and the government gives you everything that the father was providing for the family. So now you have the father outside of the home, and you have the mother that's raising these children, and she can only do so much. She can't do what the father can do. So not only is the mother raising the children, the streets are raising them, which they knew this. So that's just a few of the underlying conditions and problems of how these killings came about. They also allow these killings to take place. They could shut them down anytime they wanted to. They could shut them down anytime they wanted to. You want me to give you a prime example? You see how the protests. You see how the protests went when they was protesting. You see how many National Guard and policemen they called out on the streets, so they can keep people in control, so the protest will be peaceful. At any given time, they can stop this. They can quell the problem. This is all the doings and the workings of social engineering. This is how they do. They want the killings to persist. 18 homicides in one day is ridiculous. That's insane. And two 18-year-old female students attending college was killed. One of them was shot in the head. That's sad. But see, they allow this to go on because look, it's an 18-year-old black female in college lost her life. That was a future attorney, doctor, future architect, future CEO of a business that could benefit the black community. wherever she may have resided after she was done with college and furthered her career. As long as we killing one another, they allow the problem to persist. See, you have to do like Dick Gregory said, look beneath the surface. You can't keep looking on the surface at everything. You have to look beneath the surface, because it's something else going on that's in play, that's putting other major things into play. If you want to kill a tree, you have to uproot it. You have to kill the roots. You have to dig the roots up. If you don't, it'll just keep growing. A tree of violence has sprouted out. We have to do something about that, Chicago. This is just not Chicago's problem. This is not Chicago's problem. It's not confined to Chicago. It's not that we on the outside looking in and we pointing the finger like Chicago need to do better or Chicago need to do something about that. It's all of us, because we all play a part. We all need to come together. And it's going to take more than love. It's going to take more than praying. It's going to take for us to realize and recognize and understand what these underlying problems are. That's why I asked the questions in the beginning. Do you feel that integration or segregation was best? Because like I said, and I'm not being racist either, but segregation was best for us because we was winning. We were losing too because they was doing things to us to kill us. But the black family unit was stronger. We've been divided by many elements, especially in 2020. They didn't want us to do this. They didn't want us to do that. They didn't want us to utilize this water fountain or that water fountain. Okay, well, cool. We'll all use this one, because the ones y'all using, everybody is sick. We're not getting sick over here. We all sitting down. We have a strong family union. We're sitting down at the dinner table eating together. We're watching TV together. The parents is helping the kids do their homework, do their chores, showing them how to be dependent upon themselves when they get older, showing the children this and that. We got away from all them type of values. See, they wanted us to be segregated at first. Now they figured it out and was like, no, we have to be integrated. If you notice, in every city, like I was saying, they put all the blacks in certain communities because they felt like they were doing a disservice to us, and they was doing it on purpose. Now they then came back many years later and found out and figured out and realized that the areas that they forced us to live in was the best areas. That's why the areas is being gentrified. Gentrification. They want the areas back now. Everything they thought that they was doing to us, that they thought was bad, was really good for us, and we didn't say nothing. We just ran with it. So you have to look at that. You have to be able to see that and realize that. Open up your eyes and see everything for what it truly is. But look here, I want everybody to answer that question. I want everybody to answer that question, because I need to know, in your perspective, and how you feel about how did we get from point A to point B? How did we get from being a family unit to where it's 18 homicides a day? We killing up each other. How did we get to that? Let me know in the comment section below. Look here, I'm Starwolf. Make sure you hit that subscribe button and that like button. Make sure you hit that notification bell so you can get my videos when they drop. Make sure you share all my videos on social media platforms. Peace.